Okay, show a little more excitement. I know it's the end of the day. Okay, are we ready? Yes. You're recording, right? Yeah. No.
No. Hey, Scott, projector's off.
I know. Getting that.
Okay. Oh, you
all right? So for those of you, sweet, there we go. All right. So for those of you who are familiar with this, we do a show in Redmond called Data Exposed. Typically on that show, we have subject matter experts, typically from engineering, come and show us some awesome stuff about the technologies. We're not in Redmond anymore, Toto, so
you're stuck with us.
We're stuck with this handsome panel in front of you.
Where?
So we are actually shooting live, not live. We're actually doing Data Exposed from Bangalore, India. Woo! Yeah. Okay. So we are actually going to, once we record this, we're going to be putting this on Channel 9. So you guys are going to be famous. Okay? Well, they'll be famous. They'll just see the back of your heads. Okay? All right. So this is your opportunity. Since we don't have any people from engineering, we're going to do basically an open Q&A. So this is your opportunity to ask our panel of experts any question about SQL. Okay? We good with that? All right. So we have, how much time we got?
I don't know. I can't do basic math.
I know.
35 minutes?
35 minutes? You got 35 minutes to ask questions. Okay? So, make it we'll try to repeat the question so that our listening audience, when they can get value out of this. So here's your opportunity. Start firing questions. Let's take a minute and have these guys introduce themselves, just in case you haven't attended their sessions. So we'll start with you and work our way around.
I'm Joey D'Antoni. I'm a SQL Server MVP. I live in Malvern, Pennsylvania in the United States, and I've been working with SQL Server for about 15 years.
All right.
I'm Denny Cherry. I'm a SQL Server MVP and Microsoft Certified Master. I live in San Diego, California.
San Diego? Okay, it's the hot spot, San Diego.
That's right.
How's Philadelphia doing this time of year?
Cool.
Cool?
Yeah.
All right. The Pope's coming to Philadelphia pretty soon.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to be there.
Okay. All right, because they're shutting down the airport.
And the city.
And the city.
And we'll be in Amsterdam.
That's right, we'll be in Amsterdam. All right, and then our gracious host, round of applause for Amit. Man, this guy's awesome. All right. Introduce yourself.
My name is Amit, and I'm a SQL MVP and MCM, and I'm from India.
Awesome. He came a long way for this. He came a really long way for this. All right. So the goal here is to try, it's called Stump the Chump, right? Your goal is to ask questions that they cannot answer. Okay? That's your goal. So remember, this is going on Channel 9, so ask really, really hard questions. Okay? All right, who wants to go first? All right, this guy right up front. Go ahead.
I'll give you a scenario actually which I have faced in a real-time project in mind. So we have developed a project and the scenario is like I wanted to capture the incoming, I have developed a stored procedure and I wanted to capture the incoming parameters. I wanted to create a framework which can be used in all the stored procedures. It will capture all the parameters that is coming to the stored procedure, and whenever exception happens, I need to log those parameters in some XML or any other form. Those parameters, incoming parameters in a generic way. I know I can capture it using some hardcode, but how can I capture that using some PMP or some system-defined?
All right, who wants to tackle that one?
Capture the stored parameters on the way in the event that an error happened.
So you want to capture it only when there is an exception inside the stored proc.
In the cache proc, basically.
In a generic fashion.
Yes.
Okay.
You could call.
So I.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
What I understand is, so yours is not a question. It's actually suggest me how to build a project. Point number one. Yeah. Design it for me. That's your thing. Yeah. Design the project for me. It's not a question.
Their rate's pretty high.
But I'll still give you. So I understand that you first need to have a schema where you put down all your stored procs and all the parameters that they have, right? And you have an exception inside the stored proc. Your exception code needs to pull on pull all the information about that stored proc from that schema or from that data store, right? And then you can capture it.
But say my stored procedure has some table variable.
No, he wants the values from the parameters.
Yeah, the values for the parameters.
So if you query, there's a DMV that has the actual command that's executed,
You can
and
do
that should have.
But you'd have to be querying that real time.
You can probably at the
Oh,
beginning of the
yeah,
stored
that
proc
wouldn't work.
log the parameter values that you
Oh my God,
want
did
to
we
use.
just stump the chumps on the very first question?
Yeah, could you use
No.
Woo, you guys are awesome.
you could use an X event to capture it and then write to a file output, but I don't know where you'd correlate the error.
Yeah,
That-
you could an X event would capture it, and then you have to query the X event session in real time for the session ID. So you'd have to capture SP:start command,
Yeah.
and that would then have the input parameters,
Right.
values.
And I forget the X event that would have it, but there's an X
Yeah.
event that would have it. I'd write that to a file target.
And the column is @param.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, and you could write that to a file target and then use either PowerShell or
Yeah, but
Well, you could
you'd still have to do that real time,
Yeah,
though.
you could query. No, so in your event handling stored proc, you could query it
Yeah.
based on your session ID,
It's-
because you still have the session ID.
Wait, hold on. Why don't you just put error handling code in your stored
Well, yeah,
proc
there's that
code
too.
and capture the parameters if there's an exception.
The question was like it's generic. He has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just want to run a stored proc in your
So
catch
here
block,
is the,
right?
Here's the solution.
Yeah.
You have a table where you have the name of all the stored procs, right, and the parameters that they have, and you put an error handling code inside the stored proc. At the beginning of the execution of every stored proc, you can capture the values of every parameter at the beginning. I know it's a lot of data that is being generated, but out of the box, this is what I think. Capture all the values. If there is an exception, it goes to your error handling code. You already have the values of all the parameters. And when you're capturing the values, even if you don't want to use that external data store, you still have the parameter name. Or you could refer
Yeah.
the external data store. So you have the name of the parameter and you have the value also.
But I think the moral of the story is, like Joey says, you're going to be using, regardless, you're going to be using error handling
Yeah.
in your stored proc to get these values, right? Whether you're in that error handling, you're calling another proc to pass the values of these parameters to, like, store them in some table or something like that, right? And then so I
Yeah.
think that's, I think between these, you've got,
Yeah, you're gonna have to make code change everywhere.
yep.
So it's just a matter of what code change you're gonna put in place.
Your other option is just to rethink your entire,
Yeah. You need better error handling.
yeah.
I think I have for doing it generically. I mean, in a generic way, what we can do is like you can call a procedure. In the exception, you can call procedure or simple line of code, which actually collects all the values in the parameter. When it is, it creates a temp table and saves the values. So temp table can be used by multiple procedures at the same time. And this exception, when it is caught, it will query that table and get those values. It can send you those values.
Yeah, that's kind of the general direction I was going. Yeah, and the response was you create a temp table and create a line of code that populates that with the values of the parameters in the event of an exception. Yeah, that's what I was thinking
Yeah.
after we played trivia.
All right. So you have several options, right? Okay. All right. So you're pretty close to stumping them, all right? Pretty close. All right. Who's next?
Who's next?
Who's next? Come on. Don't be shy. We're not stopping with one question, are we? Come on.
Should have brought a ringer.
Yeah. I thought that was Karen in front.
I'm not going to scare you or see, when we go to ice cream shop, we have a lot of flavors. Correct?
Mhm.
Yeah.
When we go to Microsoft SQL, we don't have any flavor from running from smallest to biggest hardware. Smallest user 10, 15, 20 users to hundreds of. Big data is all these good.
Mhm.
But there are small people who are not connected in India. Small vendors where they want this SQL server like thing.
Mhm.
There is nothing in that.
So repeat the.
Why doesn't Microsoft have a small free product?
And how it can be addressed.
So they do.
This is
SQL Express.
Yep. SQL. Yeah.
So there is a version of SQL Server that's free, that's specifically made for the small business, and that's SQL Express.
And it's up to 5 gig now?
10.
Or 10.
Yeah, so you-
I need to raise that.
Yes, it can.
Yeah, it can be used.
Absolutely.
There's a
can.
lot of companies using that in
Yeah.
production now.
That version costs Microsoft billions of dollars a year because they don't get paid for it. and it's in production.
Yep. But keep in mind, though, let's make sure that there's and most
There's some limitations.
there's some limitations, right? You don't get the enterprise level features, but typically if you're running Express, you don't need those.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, to give you an idea of the scale that it can be run in production, most retailers in America run SQL Express in their stores. Most retailers in America have thousands of stores. So I mean, it absolutely can be used for production. The only edition of SQL Server that cannot be used for production is developer. Every other edition, including Express, is available for production use.
Likewise, Express Edition is used by a lot of retailers in India also.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah.
Classic example is Aditya Birla More.
Because you can replicate in Logship to an Express Edition, so you can seed it with like a set of master data, and then use log transactions there.
Yeah.
Future Group uses it.
Okay. Question or comment? All right.
So, I mean, it's more of an open-ended and not so technical question. What do you think is the Microsoft standpoint in terms of moving to Azure and on-premise, setting up on-premise VM virtualized environment? Because we get similar kind of features on the virtualized environment with which we set up with the VMs, and we are more secure, more confident. It's more of an confidence factor which helps us take that decision of staying on premise and build our own VMs rather than putting our data on a cloud.
Yep. Okay. So repeat the question since. If you were,
Yeah, the question was around the difference, the decision point around using cloud versus on-prem, and there's a few key decision points there. So one is to do the basic math. If you have your own data center and you have your own private cloud, it doesn't cost you very much incrementally to add another VM for SQL Server. But another scenario there might be, do you have a DR site, and could Azure be your DR site if you don't already have one? The other economic scenario that I find, it's the one thing where the cloud still kind of falls down, is if you have a very high sustained workload, and you have your own data center, it tends to be far more cost effective to run it yourself.
Yeah.
So it's more of, if you consider the data platform, do you think like Azure is going to be a good choice? Because data platforms generally are big and then it tends to grow a lot.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's quite that simple. I think you have to use Azure. And I think the ethos at Microsoft, and I don't work for them, has changed a lot in the last few years. Because originally the
kind of throw out that disclaimer.
the original Azure message was really, no, you're going to run everything in Azure, and that's going to be the end-all, be-all.
Yeah.
And it's definitely moved to more of a hybrid, run the right solutions.
Well, so I need to jump in there because I think that was a.
Yes, Microsoft employee.
So I'm being a third party here for a minute. So yes, Microsoft, but I think that was a mismessage. Not that we were intentionally saying, look, Azure is the best platform ever. I think there was a implicit move everything to Azure message. Not that we were saying that.
Your sales reps were.
That's sales. They say anything.
Exactly.
Sorry, was that recorded?
Just blame me. It's fine.
Okay, but the message we have been stating very clearly for the last, let's say, 12 to 18 months is hybrid.
At least.
At least, right?
24 months.
Yeah, it's hybrid, right? Because the number one thing, every one of you sitting here and the companies you work for have an enormous amount of money invested in your current infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And the last thing that Microsoft wants to do is go, you don't need it anymore. Yeah. Right?
Well, and Microsoft has gotten very realistic with the understanding that not everything can run in the cloud. Some things should be on-premise.
That's absolutely correct.
Because the 3, 4, 5 years ago, it was, it can all be in the cloud.
Yeah.
Now Microsoft has finally realized, there are some things that should be on-prem. If you've got all your employees in one location and your bandwidth is not great and your network maybe isn't particularly stable, then why on earth would you move everything to the cloud? Yeah. Your employees can't work. If they can't work, the company can't make money. So that would not make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that the answer is that it's on a it depends basis.
Yeah.
Right. You really have to look at every single situation differently. does it make sense to move to the cloud? You have to ask that. Does it make sense? And maybe it doesn't make sense. Maybe it makes sense to move to the cloud. Maybe it makes sense to do hybrid. But you have to look at every single one of those scenarios on a case-by-case basis.
Yep.
Does that answer your question? Okay. I've got a question. Go ahead.
This question is about we are talking about too much of like cloud and hybrid technology over this.
Mm-hmm.
There is another thing like hot in the market like data virtualization. You see like there are many companies like they are also like they have their data warehouse or Hadoop ecosystem built, and if they want to build any other data platform to integrate that, they go for a data virtualization. But I don't see any Microsoft talking about the data virtualization. What is the Microsoft view on data virtualization? What is that?
What's the Microsoft view on data virtualization?
Yeah.
Yeah. The closest thing I'd say that's in the Microsoft space to that is Azure Data Lake, and that's kind of building a semantic layer on top of a deep infrastructure that's going to have a single unified interface. You'll hear more about that in the next few months. That's about all I can say now.
You said too much over. I'm kidding.
I know I can say Azure Data Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in the slides yesterday.
I know.
But in terms of, and I think from a Hadoop perspective, Microsoft's taken a much more realistic approach in the last, since Ballmer got fired.
Remember, this is being recorded
By Microsoft.
by Microsoft.
I mean, before Ballmer retired, I'm sorry.
You're still getting fired, Scott.
We like to get Scott fired.
It'd be like the third time.
Yeah.
Today, third time today.
The approach was really to do a Hadoop on Windows thing, and it worked, but it was just, you had to use PowerShell to interact with it, and now all the latest HD Insight stuff is running on Linux, and it's using the same code that you use in Cloudera or regular Hortonworks Hadoop, and I think it just makes a whole lot more sense, because instead of wasting their time porting old open source projects to run on Windows, the dev teams can contribute to other open source projects and build their own code. And I think that's going to help a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft's they've done a complete 180 when it comes to open source. I mean, 10 years ago, if you breathed the word open source anywhere within the city limits of Redmond,
Steve Ballmer for
yes, bomb with a chair through a window, a security guard would get you and throw you out of the city. Whereas now, I mean, Microsoft has people that contribute regularly to large open source projects like Hadoop.
Actually, two of the engineers on the SQL Server product team are contributors to the Hive project, or committers to the Hive
Committers,
project.
yeah. So, Microsoft's taken a very open approach. I mean, they just open sourced Visual Studio.
Yeah.
I mean, so they've changed their direction quite a bit, and they're definitely embracing
Any
this
frameworks,
whole-
open
this whole
source,
thing.
all that kind of stuff.
Could you clarify a little bit further what you mean by data virtualization per se? Because even in the context of it, like when I think of data virtualization, the product I think of specifically is Delphix.
Product like Denado or Composite Software.
Okay.
Cisco bought over.
Yeah, I mean, the one product I can think of in the database space that's like, in the relational space that's like that is Delphix, which they tend to work more with that other database provider that's in Redwood Shores. But they do support SQL Server, and that allows you to kind of make virtualized copies. It's somewhat of a snapshot technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Somewhat?
Sort of. Maybe.
Sort of?
Yeah.
He wants Joey to break NDA.
That's right.
If I can't get him to do it, you're not going to be able to. I pay his salary.
Awesome. All right. So go ahead.
One more question. So today, throughout the sessions, we learned about two things. One is stretch database and the in-memory enhancements by Microsoft.
Only two things. Throughout the day, only two things.
Mainly concentrated.
Okay.
So one thing that we learned is like the stretch technology by Microsoft in 2016.
Mhm.
So is that also applicable for in-memory database tables?
The question is stretch databases going to work with in-memory OLTP tables as well? Yeah, we'd have to ask a gentleman who works in Redmond, who's somewhere in the city right now. I want to say no.
As far as I know.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, the answer is no.
Yeah, just because there's still a size limitation on in-memory tables, and Yeah, that just wouldn't work.
Yeah,
architecturally.
the whole point of in-memory tables is to be super fast. The internet's not super fast.
It's only with disk-based tables.
Yeah.
Table is in memory to local to the machine, so I don't
Yeah, okay, but keep in mind though, when you stretch that table to Azure, it creates a whole new database, right? So you'd have to. Okay, and Denny's correct because Azure SQL DB does not support in-memory yet, right? And so why would you stretch an in-memory table to a disk-based table on Azure?
Right.
Right. So once Azure SQL Database supports in-memory,
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
right?
Yeah, there's all
Okay.
sorts of options available. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
One more follow-up question on that. Like, say I don't want to use the stretch database of Azure. I have my own data center. Can I have two servers and I can have like code data stored in another server? Or is it
Yeah. Someone asked this question in my session today. Can you stretch a database for?
Could you do it with Azure Pack?
Yeah.
So the
I mean, I don't see why
the question
not.
you're asking though is, can you stretch from one physical server to another physical server in another data center? And the answer is no.
Yeah, not with that feature.
Not with that feature.
Yeah. You can
Right?
do it yourself.
Yeah,
can
but
blow
you
your own
can stretch if you're running Azure Pack over here somewhere. and you
Would,
might do
would it
that
work to
way.
Azure Pack, you think?
I would think so.
Yeah, 'cause
I'd,
it
I'd have
should.
to. I haven't tried that, but I would
It's
think
an
so.
that'd be an interesting test.
Because think about it, it's the whole purpose of StretchDB is to say is you're not. Your basic StretchDB says I'm taking cold data, right? We all know what cold data is. Cold data is historical data. Let's call it historical data that you're not querying much, right? So why would you just move that to another, right? Just put that in Azure where the storage is cheaper.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
put on my infrastructure architect hat.
Yeah.
I'm using a AWS system. And if I
He said, all right, you out. He said the A word.
Yeah, but
Oh my goodness.
he's still paying for a license. It's okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That will never happen in a million years.
Yeah, Microsoft wants some revenue.
Yeah, just like they'll
good
never,
save, good save.
They'll never build in a add availability group replica to AWS.
Yeah.
That one's not happening.
So what you just asked was actually the traditional concept of sharding a database across different
Yeah.
boxes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good comment. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what I want to. Yeah.
Interestingly, there's a new set of Elastic database tools that are built into Visual Studio that you could potentially. It's designed to work with SQL database, but I think you could probably design it to work with like existing on-prem infrastructure.
It's only for Azure right now.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the tool set builds in sharding, some of the sharding
Yeah.
capabilities.
Is it GA? Is it GA?
It's kind of like open source. You
Yeah,
get it
it's
through NuGet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not 100% on that.
Okay. This guy's got a question back up here.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Yeah. So
Watch this
announcements around SSIS, SSRS in Azure.
No, in general.
in
Oh,
general.
in general.
Yeah.
For 2016.
Yeah.
2016.
There are a few enhancements that have already been publicly announced. So if you bingle new features. I'm getting fired again. If you do an internet search on 2016 new features, there are a few things that are already documented for SSIS and RS, but there's more stuff coming. We just can't talk about it yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so
yeah, watch this space.
Just adding to what Joey said, SSRS particularly is going to be completely a changeover as far as I've heard, and it's going to be really enterprise ready.
Follow Jen Underwood on Twitter.
Yeah.
And she's actually been sharing stuff that I'm not sure I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think keep in mind, the latest release, CTP 2.2, right? And so there'll be significant stuff in CTP 3, and then they'll continue doing stuff in GA. So
one of the biggest things that's been announced is going to be like kind of a unified development. I know we've had like 25 iterations of BI development tools for SQL Server, but there's going to be one unified toolkit that hasn't been released yet, but it has been announced.
Okay. So next question: when is CTP 3 coming out?
Sometime between today and July 1st, 2017.
well, I'll even go as far as to say, between today and probably December 31st. I'll say that. Okay.
That's
Well,
fair.
when people ask release date questions, I always say, look at the history of when the
Yeah.
last versions and the last CTPs were announced, and at what events?
Why
Yeah.
do we look? Scott knows the answer.
Oh, I know the answer. I just don't know if I can say.
Guys, keep in mind, they don't tell us until about 30 minutes before they post it on the web.
Yeah, they,
So,
they get an email going, oh, by the way, it just got released.
by the way, you could have downloaded it an hour ago. You should
Yeah.
probably get on that.
So
Yeah.
it's a nice joke in our MVP DL. We get to MVPs get to know first, but it's only 30 minutes.
That's about it.
That's right. Yeah.
With the time zones, it's always
We're
Yeah.
sleeping by that.
All right, this gentleman right there, and then we'll go to you. So this guy right here.
So when do you think people will go for SSRS and when do people go for Power BI? And,
When should people go for reporting services and when should people go for Power BI? Joey?
Joey. And don't use the word bingle in, in your response.
I need to call. I need to phone a friend. Generally speaking, SSRS is used for pixel perfect reports that that are print quality that you're gonna be handing somebody that are run on more of a static basis, not using less real time data. So using like more traditional reporting against a data warehouse. Whereas Power BI is designed to give you a more flexible approach, deal with more real time scenarios, use visualizations that were created after 1999.
Do you see, in your opinion, and I'm putting you on the spot, do you see SSRS ever, just because of the way Power BI is, where Power BI is going, what do you think the history of RS is going?
I mean, it's interesting. So Jen Underwood posted a lot of changes to SSRS in terms of visualizations and such. I think there's another company in Seattle who's been doing a really good job with the data visualization product, and Microsoft's catching up there in Power BI, but they just haven't caught up with on-prem. And I feel like the DataZen acquisition is going to help with that some.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff they're going to pull in from DataZen is going to help. Really, I think functionally, SSRS is still pretty good. It's definitely lacking in visualization. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah.
So no, you can continue.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I have
Yeah.
a comment.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
the visualizations haven't changed since like we got some enhancements in 2008 R2, and even from a visualization perspective, that wasn't that great.
Yeah, so I mean, RS hasn't gotten any real big changes in 8 years,
Yeah.
10, 20, 30 years. So, hopefully we'll get them relatively soon. On the upside, that doesn't mean the team's had a good long time to work on
Yeah.
it.
The other thing is who asked that question? Oh yeah. So the other thing is the target audience for both the tools is also different. SSRS is more particularly targeted towards like say BI
Very good
developers.
point. Very
Yeah.
good point.
Power BI is not targeted at like folks like us, for example, hardcore technical folks.
Yeah, because Power BI it's more geared, if I
Yeah,
understand it correctly,
workers.
to the users.
Yeah,
Power
Yeah.
user,
Yeah.
Power
BI
users.
tool.
Yeah, so it's like for business users or information workers. Though there will always be cases where you might kind of have an overlap and you might kind of decide as to
Yep.
which one to go for. That will always be there, but there will be clear, distinct set of audiences.
Okay.
But Power BI has a data limitation of 10 GB, right? So when we usually import the data into Power BI, in memory, it has a data limit of 10 GB.
Okay.
So don't you think this is a drawback for the tool? I mean, the big enterprise actually, they want to utilize that tool.
There was a question around the data limits in Power BI, and there is that 10 gig upload limit. But you can also query, and Microsoft's continuing to add real-time data sources. And this is only on the paid version, not the free version. But you can real-time query SQL Server Tabular. And I know they're working on a few other ones. I'm not sure which ones I'm allowed to talk about, but I know you can query real-time.
Throwing out
tabular.
teasers out there, aren't you?
No, no, I'm pretty sure there are two other ones that have SQL in them, but
Right.
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a comment there. So, not speaking on behalf of Microsoft, but my independent opinion here about the limit is, first thing, nothing is unlimited. There has to be limit to even the size of the data that you deal with. Knowing that Power BI is not targeted towards like DBAs or developers, do you really expect business users and information workers to deal with terabytes of data?
As a company, what we face is that we are trying to find applications like we are trying DataZen, we are trying Tableau, we are trying a lot of visualization tools which actually the users would like. When we give the dashboard to them, so they should be liking the colors, they should be liking the data. For example, we have a video that runs every 30 minutes. Right? We are trying to make it as real time as possible within the SSRS, but they actually
You can like
Yeah, comment on visualization.
yeah. The question was around visualization. Those enhancements, that feedback was well received, and starting I think in the last August update of the Power BI desktop, you can change the color patterns and color schemes to make them custom. So those enhancements are coming. There's lots of enhancements coming in the visualization space pretty fast and pretty quick.
Very
Yeah.
quick, almost every 2 weeks
Yeah.
there's an update. So it's changing pretty quick.
So DataZen, where DataZen fits in the architecture right now is if you're using on-premise SSR, mainly if you're in a traditional BI scenario where you're probably using SSAS multidimensional, you're using SSRS to deliver reports, and you want to give your users a mobile experience in a more modern.
That goes back to the previous question of SSRS
Yeah.
limitations and why
Yeah.
SSRS has not changed over years. DataZen is actually the one answer to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really it is.
Yep.
DataZen solves a lot of the problems we've been complaining about SSRS for the last 5 years. No, I think you're going to see.
What was his question?
Is SSRS?
Is Microsoft going to kill SSRS?
Yeah, that was my question earlier, right? What is your opinion? No, I don't see it going away anytime soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So.
It'll be around at least as long as Profiler is.
And neither analysis services and nor is it-
Hey, Profiler is awesome.
All right. Let's get to this guy's question here in a second.
We are hearing a lot about in-memory engine that Microsoft has released in 2014, and now in 2016 they have extended it and enhanced it. So now with this technology, they have also introduced hash index and also natively compiled stored procedures. And we are getting lots of performance improvement by using these technologies.
Mm-hmm.
And using natively compiled stored procedure, that instructions are like reduced 30% or
Yep.
even more than that. So now why these technologies are not incorporated with traditional tables like hash index can be, so like it will give better performance only with main memory, not with secondary memory. And the second question is that natively compiled stored procedures, why, like, is there any plan in future to incorporate natively compiled stored procedure with the traditional tables, disk-based storage?
Okay. So.
Scott, please tell us all the future projects at Microsoft for the next 10 years.
Yeah, let me expose all our NDA material right now. Let me ask you, tackle your first question. Right? Hash index on normal tables, right? That they're talking about that. So I don't know if we'll see that in 16, but that's on. They've talked about. They're looking at that. Let me just say they're looking at it. Okay. I can't say when or things like that, but that's one of the big things that has feedback. When can we have an hash index? Blah 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 blah. Right. So they're looking at that. I'm trying to understand your second question about in memory.
Natively compiled stored procedures,
Yeah.
it is giving better performance. So like,
Yeah.
so
What?
will they be
Not a compiled stored
Yeah. When can natively compiled stored procs touch row store? And my assumption would be
Wait. Say that again. When will a natively compiled store procedure be able to talk to a disk-based table?
yes. My guess would be it's going to be a long time
Yeah.
before that's going to happen.
Yep.
Because the way those natively compiled stored procedures work is they're pre-compiled as C.
Yep.
So they have no access back to the database engine,
Yeah.
which is why they only can work on in-memory tables.
On in-memory tables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that may not happen. If it does, it's going to be a long
Yeah.
time.
Yep. But and even at that, you're still getting drastic performance improvements just by moving the table, right?
Yeah.
Right.
we cannot move all the tables to
Right, yeah.
Let's make very clear. The last thing you want to do is move all your tables to in-memory, right? That is not
Hey,
the right.
Memory would love it if you would move all your memory tables to
In
in-memory
fact, we should
tables.
go. Absolutely. If you move all your tables, we'll give you a huge discount on
Well,
Kingdom Memory.
you're going to see, one thing that to me is really interesting about the technology is with the latest Intel, like the next gen Intel chips,
Yeah.
you're going to see tremendous amounts of memory density. Like potentially, I think it's 2 or 4. I forget Glenn's post. 4 terabytes per node potentially. So you could have 4 socket servers with 16 terabytes of RAM.
Yeah. So I think the answer is you just need to understand how the natively compiled works, and Denny's spot on, right?
Yeah.
It basically compiles that as C, and you can actually crack open the code and look at what the code looks like. But
Yeah, the DLL is sitting on the hard drive.
it's just sitting there. It's a DLL, right? So just because of the structure, nature, and the architecture of how it's compiled, just you can't. Now it acts and smells just like a normal table because it shows up in and store procedure shows up in Management
Right.
Studio, but doesn't mean it can talk to a disk-based table, right? And I think you guys are right. I think that's
Yeah, if it was going to
if ever,
happen,
if
I
ever.
would say 10+ years.
Yeah,
at
if
the
ever.
minimum.
Yes.
So I'm still a new guy to Azure. So basically we have a .NET application and we just publish it to Azure. We're using it everywhere. So I'd just like to know about some kind of capabilities that Azure can provide further in terms of the number of customers visiting the site, so like the B2C site up and running in Azure.
Yeah, you're.
To build more kind of visualization dashboards for the management. You can see the real-time visitors coming in.
Yeah.
Things like that. So is there any tools which that
Yeah, I think
From
the keynote.
what's that?
Well, I think some of what
Yeah.
Laura showed in the keynote, you could use Azure Eventing, and Azure Eventing can report back to Power BI, and you can have a dashboard pretty quickly.
Well, but I think he's asking, correct me if I'm wrong, he's asking how can I tell how many visitors my site will handle, right?
Handle.
handle, even I would like to see a kind of a nice chart which shows the number of visitors in real time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what you're
she's looking for a
talking about.
dashboard.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yes. So you Event Hub, capture the events, and send them to Power BI.
Yeah.
Yeah. Find Laura Robelki. She's the tall blonde lady that's floating around somewhere. She can tell you all about how to do that because she did it in the keynote.
And just a follow-up question. Today we learned about Azure Data Factory and we also got a session about Elastic Azure and so on.
Yep.
Are these technologies ready already? Because I feel that the speaker was mentioning that it was version 1.
So Data Factory's been out a while, right?
That
Using such things for
Absolutely.
yeah.
So
Oh, yeah,
let's draw a line here, right? So Azure Data Factory, it's been out a while, right? And this is kind of our data movement, right? Event, right? But now if you're talking Elastic Pool, was your other one, right? So these are things that are fairly new. Elastic, SQL database has been out for a long time, but things like Elastic Pool, Elastic Scale, these are somewhat fairly new, right? So we have to also understand that these are completely different technologies, right? But they're used together. But at the same time, Elastic Scale, Elastic Pool, Elastic Jobs, these are kind of fairly new, and they are being used, right? They're absolutely being used by lots of large companies. But keep in mind those are separate.
And those technologies, just one final thing, have been, because I did some work for Microsoft specifically around those technologies. They've been running for a while, so they're pretty mature.
Yep. We test them heavily and use them. It's called dog food. We eat our own dog food, so we test them and use them internally long before we ship them out. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Since morning onwards, I was seeing the Hadoop, the ecosystem. In the current ecosystem, there is also something called TAZE.
Called what?
TEZZ. TAZE. Some kind of
Create table as
Yes,
select.
yeah.
Create table as select.
So, yeah.
Oh,
as
Tez.
the Hadoop documentation, they are saying that it is needed for speeding up the MapReduce query.
Yeah. So Tez.
But my doubt is MapReduce is still pretty fast. So why do we need some engine on top of that to speed up the things?
MapReduce isn't really fast.
Yeah. Tez is actually a technology that has to do with the way you work with the files. That's what makes it fast.
Yeah.
Yep. Right.
Yeah, it kind of gives you an optimizer.
It's an optimizer around the files, right? So MapReduce in itself is not fast. I mean, it's fast, but it's not as fast as we want it to be. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But Tez is an optimizer of how it deals with the files, right? That's what makes things. And there's another one out there called starts with the letter C, I think. I can't remember what it's called, but these are file optimizations on how to improve performance of your Hadoop.
Anything available on HD Insight that is
Same thing, yeah, because
yeah, you can do Tez, you can do Parquet,
yeah.
just about everything.
yep.
and how about the report? Because now that we have
Oh, I don't know that. I should have that.
I don't know. Yeah.
Time? All right. Okay, we are out of time. So thank you for participating in the first Data Exposed from India. Hopefully not the last.
Oh, it depends if we actually get fired or not after this one.
That's right. If I'm not here next year, you know what happened. All right, thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.